Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing for joining me this morning. I'm my own tech, so if you see things going awry, it's me. Nobody else back here pushing the buttons, but thank you so much for joining me here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. Just trying to get back into the swing of things. I was off for a week, had to get some moving done. Um, but yeah, just moving my office around and everything. So the internet, it might not be as great. I don't know. I might go back to just my pre-recorded short stints, but we will see. But thank you guys so much for joining me here this morning and taking out the time to check out the news. So with that, let's get into some trending topics on X. So I came across this. So we've been talking about the Georgia families fight against Georgia Power's eminent domain for transmission lines. And it's very interesting because, like I was saying before earlier this week, this isn't the first time that companies or even our own government hasn't come in to claim eminent domain for what they call quote unquote progress. But when it's progress for the sake of people losing their homes, the history of those homes, the generational wealth that actually has been built, is it really worth it? Right? Because government is much, and even these corporations, they're so fast to be like, we want this quick dollar now. You're not thinking about 20, 30 years down the road, how this is really going to affect people. And you don't care because your focus is the dollar. Your focus isn't the people who actually still pay you for this service. Because in this instance, it's Georgia Power, right? And I don't really think companies just think it through. So Georgia Power plans a 35-mile, 500 kilovolt transmission line from Fayetteville through Fayetteville County through Coweta County and Fulton counties to plant Wansley, affecting over 330 private parcels and requiring full acquisition of 21 homes. With construction possibly starting in 2027, residents like Brown oppose the project, linking it to Georgia's data center boom, right? Fueled by tax incentives that have cost the state billions, including 2.5 billion projected for fiscal 2026, while Georgia Power cites surging demand for safe service and prefers amicable deals with fair compensation. Critics argue families shouldn't lose homes that subsidize big tech, sparking rallies and lawsuits as property rights clash with economic growth. And here I live in the state of Georgia, and there are certain parts of Georgia where nobody lives there. There are these large parcels of land. It's just, there's nobody there. And my question is, why isn't Georgia Power using areas like that if we are going to have these data centers? Now, I don't like the data centers because number one, they don't produce anything that we can actually use, but they say, oh, but it's AI. Here's the thing. Then tell it what it would say it like it is. It's a utility, right? It's not really producing anything. It doesn't produce a car. It's not producing food, and it's not producing anything that's going to preserve the land or the water. So it's taking away. And then on top of that, we're eventually going to be paying for it as a service because that's what it is. It's providing a service, right? In the initial cost, it's like, yeah, it's going to create jobs. But once it's already built, there's no longer going to be a need for construction. But what happens to the water? The billions of gallons a day these data centers collectively use. What's happening? What are we really doing? I don't like the data centers. I want it shut down. If that means we have to lose AI, oh well, whatever. I don't care. Because up until this juncture, AI has been nothing but a nightmare for a lot of us. So get rid of it. Start over. Figure out something else that's going to be better. Right? And so here we are, Senator Greg Dolezal. I've actually got a chance to meet him. He says eminent domain for data centers is absurd. Georgia paying data centers to come here with special tax rates. I just said that. It's going crazy. So Ansley and her mom are fighting for their home is his heroic. I'm glad that they're out here fighting because somebody needs to. I mean, really. So here's Ansley. She said, today I got the opportunity to show Georgia State Senator Greg Dolezal around the property that Georgia Power is trying to take from my family through eminent domain. I will not stop fighting. Now, Greg Dolezal, he's actually running for lieutenant governor. So there's also that.
Go. Hey, you guys, it's Ansley from Coweta County, Georgia, fighting for my mom's house that's being taken by eminent domain. Today I'm here with Senator Greg Dolezal, showing him my mom's property that they're trying to take from us. As you see behind me, these are the power lines that neighbor my mom's property. They already have 400 feet of property here. They have plenty of room to work with, but they want more. How much more? They want 200 feet more in this direction. If you want to come this way, Mom, you can kind of see. My mom's house is just through those woods right there. As you can see, it's wrong. It's not right. They have plenty of room to work with here. They don't have to take these homes, but they're doing it anyways. What do you think about this?
This is crazy. I had no clue that there was this much space. And frankly, Ansley, when I pulled up, I kind of figured that maybe they're going to come into the first row of trees. I did not realize it was going to be all the way over there. Y'all, public policy decisions and votes have downstream implications that affect real families and real people. And the fact that we have this crazy tax credit here in Georgia that is giving away billions of dollars for data centers to come set up shop here in Georgia is why so many of them are coming.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And, you know, we've been fighting this fight as to whether or not the data centers have to pay their pro rata share of this capacity expansion. That's been a big fight at the Capitol. But this data center tax credit thing is the reason why families like yours are having to deal with this. And I'm just so sorry for what y'all are going through.
I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everybody's support who has shared my videos. I'm not going to stop fighting. I'm going to be out here every day until this house is either on the ground or stays in our family forever. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate all the shares. And Georgia Power, I'm coming for you.
As she should. They have enough room. But here's my thing. Data centers do not help. They hurt. So you're bringing something in here that's literally going to destroy the state. What good is that? What good is it when people will not be able to drink the water in the area because the data centers have used it all and destroyed the reproducing of the water in that area. What good is a data center if it's going to destroy the area? That's my question. So those of you at the state capitol, what are you doing? Now there's a House representative I'm working with, Steve Sands, and Senator Hodges. You guys need to do something about this. You need to fix this. This is a problem. Stop the data centers. No more data centers, okay? We have enough of them. Whatever count we're at, that's it. And then you need to change the regulations on them. Oh yeah, just like you do everybody else, right? You do it to other businesses. Change the regulations and make them produce a system that's not going to infiltrate the water supply, right? To dirty up the water supply. And make sure that they are whatever they're producing, it betters the environment. It doesn't take away from the environment. And maybe they shouldn't get all these tax incentives. Because see, at one point, like I said, it's just going to be a utility service that they're going to ask us our tax dollars for. And you're going to give them tax breaks? No. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. Get out. No more tax breaks. No more. Now, Greg Dolezal, was this, you're like, wow, this is really bad. Bro, is this a photo op? Because if this is a photo op with no work behind it, that's a problem. We need you to fix it. You don't need photo ops. We need action. Okay. Now, here's another one. House hearing debates Sharia law's compatibility with the Constitution. Shocker. So a House Judiciary Committee led by Representative Chip Roy, he's a Republican in Texas, held its second hearing on whether political Islam and Sharia law conflicts with the U.S. Constitution, featuring testimony from Hunter Lopez and Wiley of Wiley East High School. He described unequal treatment and unapproved Why Islam table distributed materials to fewer than 50 students, while his club dealt with delays and poster removals amid school accommodations like halal meats for Muslim students. Witnesses debated Sharia's role in U.S. nonprofits and immigration, with Republicans highlighting security threats and Democrats warning of discrimination. The school district called it a procedural error and tightened rules. Really? Because you won't let Christians on campus, but you're going to let Islam on campus? Islam is not an ethnicity. It is a religion. Period. It's a religion. Muslims are a moniker for Islam. That's their religious name. Okay? If you're a Muslim, you practice Islam. It's a religion. Period. It is not an ethnicity. Stop making it seem like, well, they're being discriminated against. No, we've got freedom of religion in this country, right? Yes. Okay, great. You can express yourself. Freedom of religion, right? Yes, great. But you're not going to force it on anybody. And if Christianity can't be there, right, then Islam can't be there. Okay? And Luciferians can't be there. And Satan worshipers can't be there. And people that practice paganism can't be there either. Stop. Stop trying to indoctrinate the children. And Islam knows what they're doing, siding with the Democrats, because they know that it's always going to be, an emotional issue that drives it. There was an imam, I played a video, months ago, where he was saying, oh yeah, we'll deal with the Democrats because they hate themselves. They're going to murder their kids. They're going to do all these crazy things. And then we'll just take over. That's their plan. That's why they're with the Democratic Party. They don't want to be with the Republican Party because the Republican Party will hold them accountable. They don't want that. That's why so many of them are Democratic. Just like that. So it says, boom. The Truth of Islam just got nuked on Congress. So Amy Meck, Islam is a hostile, totalitarian political ideology using our freedom to destroy us. To every non-Muslim, it offers three choices: convert, submit, or die. The West must repel this. And that's it. And she's not wrong. That's where they're at. Now, a lot of people say, well, is it all Muslims? That's the kicker. That's the kicker. You've got people that are under like the Nation of Islam. Mm-mm. That's not them. They are not the convert, submit, or die people. They are more focused on making sure men are properly taking care of their homes, women are properly taking care of the other women to take care of the children, and being a successful community. That's what the Nation of Islam does. Now, there are other members of Islam that do similar to what the NOI does. And then you've got the jihadist Muslims under Islam that give the three choices: convert, submit, or die. And they use politics to infiltrate so that they can, exercise their dominance. That's what they have in Iran. Okay, we don't want Iran over here. So those that want to do that, like Iran, you need to go to a country like that and exercise and practice that. Then that's fine. But you can't do that here. Okay? That's all I'm saying. You can't do it here.
Amy Meckelberg. I'm founder of Rare Foundation USA. I come before you today out of profound love for this country and at great personal cost. For 15 years, I have documented Islam's assault on Europe and its dangerous advance inside of America. For defending Western values, Islam and its left-wing allies marked my family for destruction. They stalked us, they attacked my loved ones' careers, and sent death threats. Today, I travel with armed security. A simple walk, a grocery run, opening my front door, none of it is safe anymore. Islam has taken that from me. The hardest part of this fight, though, has been watching my friends pay the ultimate price. On January 29th, 2025, my friend Salwan Momika, an Iraqi Christian who fled to Sweden to escape Islam, was slaughtered as I watched. Sweden put him on trial for hate speech, for telling the truth about the threat that killed him. Salwan predicted his own assassination. He knew because the Sharia penalty for criticizing Islam is death. A 1,400-year-old war is being waged inside our country. Muhammad, the man that Muslims call their prophet, was a military commander whose mission was to bring the world under Islamic rule. The mission cannot be completed until America falls. Islam is a hostile totalitarian political ideology using our freedoms to destroy us. To every non-Muslim, it offers three choices: convert, submit, or die. It does not stop until every court, every school, and every government on earth is under Sharia. The Muslim Brotherhood turned this imperative into a modern conquest strategy. Two seized documents, the 1982 project and the 1991 explanatory memorandum, detail their two-front plan. Build parallel Islamic societies that reject assimilation while their faithful capture our institutions. The Brotherhood wrote the playbook. Today, every hostile Islamic regime and faction is executing it on our soil. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Turkey, Qatar, Pakistan, Hamas, the Taliban. Different countries, different sects, all marching in lockstep towards one conquest. These networks operate more than 8,000 Islamic nonprofits across America, including 650 in Texas alone. They built a parallel infrastructures, mosques, seminaries, school, Sharia banks, Sharia courts, Sharia clinics, charities, media, and political networks. They have no plans of assimilating. Texas and Florida are the Brotherhood's command centers. They are the clearest example of the first strategy: build massive fortresses where Muslims can live cradle to grave under full Sharia. In Texas, terror-tied Imam Yasser Qadi is fighting to build Epic City, a 402-acre Sharia compound marked as, quote, the epicenter of Islam in North America, end of quote. In Katy, an $80 million Sharia compound is rising under Brotherhood operative Main al-Quda, whose family are leading terrorists in Jordan. Hamad Ghazali, named in the 1991 memorandum, recruited Americans for al-Qaeda. Today, he writes curriculum for Islamic school children across North America. Texas taxpayers are able to fund him through school vouchers. Across America, the Brotherhood is buying churches and converting them to mosques. A Lubbock school became a Brotherhood mosque in 45 days. In Dallas, 2 imams who preach hand amputation, sex with captives, and stoning adulterers are suing to seize a Christian megachurch. Garland, Texas hosts the U.S. headquarters of a Pakistani jihadi network that trains hundreds of terrorists, including the recent killer of the West Virginia National Guard member. In Florida, third-generation Brotherhood leader Magda El-Khadi Salah runs a self-contained Tampa enclave. A Houston mosque led by imam appointed by the Iran's supreme leader received $1 million in tax dollars while children pledged allegiance to Khomeini. Another Hamas-supporting Tex mega mosque hosted public school field trips while its imams preached that the fathers and brothers can kill adulterous daughters. Members of Congress, there is a little Muslim American girl right now born in Texas under our Constitution with every sacred right our forefathers fought and died to give her. She will never know any of them. Her own father, imam, and teachers raise her to believe she is worth less than half a man, and Islam's texts command this. If she is beaten, it is her fault. If she is raped, no American courthouse will hear her screams. If she is married off as a child to a pedophile, she will never know it is a crime. She is shielded from her birthright, raised to hate her own country, trained to subvert it. There are thousands like her and growing fast. This war's second strategy captures our institutions and cultures from within. Their operatives have penetrated our State Department, our courts, our school boards to subvert the Constitution and replace it. Hamas, doing business as CARE, has trained 50,000 lawyers. They boast of this, journalists, filmmakers, influencers to embed Islam and rewrite our history. When we object, they scream Islamophobia. Their super PAC floods our elections, mosque-run voter drives. Beside me is 15-year-old Marco Hunter Lopez. He will tell you how the Muslim Brotherhood student arm founded in Texas by Yasser Qadhi's father is targeting Texas children. For speaking out, Marco's safety was threatened. Our nation's leaders are failing our children. Member of Congress, the American people are awake. Washington is not. We must choose the Constitution of the Quran, America or the Caliphate, freedom or submission. There is no middle ground.
And here's the deal, Congress. If you're not going to do anything, this is treason, period. Because you are giving our enemies aid and comfort, period. Period. And there are people within Congress that are Muslim. Ilhan Omar is one of them. And there are others that practice Sharia. Even though they say they don't, they're lying. And they're allowed to lie, by the way, under their religion. So, yeah, you're not going to use freedom of religion against us to take over this country. You're going to get out. See, people forget we have had mass deportations and denaturalizations in this country in the early 1900s, and we can do it again. And there is a new tide turning. There are people that are coming into office that are tired of the old guard, that are not willing to give up their freedoms, right, to make other people comfortable for their feelings. Get out. If you do not want to live under the Constitution, if you do not want to be an American, it's real simple. Go. That's it. That's it. There's no in between. Okay. Now we're going to look at this mother's frustration over non-English math class fuels a school to dip. What? English is the law of the land in America. What are we talking about? What? So apparently this video shows her questioning tax-funded education when teachers must slow down for non-English speakers. What? Gaining thousands of likes online. It aligns with Senator Tommy Tuberville's May 12th Senate speech decrying mass migration strain on schools, where he stood by a sign reading "Assimilate or go home." That's where I'm at, okay? And previewed the 2026 Assimilation Act to end chain migration, thank you, and shift to merit-based. No, I don't want any merit-based migration. No. I want it stopped. I want a whole moratorium on anybody coming into the country, okay? Because obviously it's not right. And until we get it right, nobody else gets to come in. Our doors are closed. Get off the soil. We got to get rid of some because they don't respect this country, period. But they want to whine and cry about all the things that they can't have. Get out. That's where I'm at. I am at get out. So national data reveals 10.6% of public school students are English learners, mostly US born, with higher rates in states like California and Texas, amid debates over cost estimates at $73 billion annually for undocumented students and lagging graduation rates. Our babies can't read. Our babies are under like a 5th grade reading level, graduating from high school. Because I graduated from high school with a 5th grade reading level. I graduated in 1989. Yeah. Yeah. In 3 years, that'll be 40 years that I graduated with. So can you imagine what's happening to the kids now? If that was happening back then? It's only got worse. So American Mother says her daughter is one of only 4 children in her entire math class that speaks English. So math classes are usually like what? Okay, so there's like 20 kids. Some classes have over 35 kids. So she doesn't get to learn math because there's 20 plus other kids who don't know English, and the teacher has to accommodate them. Why am I paying property taxes? Big one right there. Why am I paying income tax? Why am I paying taxes for anything for my children to have the right to a free and public education? This is what they get. You don't get to learn math because you know English. So you just don't get to learn. That is so insane. I feel so bad for this mommy.
I'm about to ask what I'm not supposed to ask. Why is one of my children in a class where she's one of 4 kids that speaks English in math, and she doesn't get to learn math because there's 20 plus other kids who don't know English, and the teacher has to accommodate them? And I'm not blaming the teacher. I actually feel really bad for the teachers. Why? Why am I paying property taxes? Why am I paying income tax? Why am I paying taxes for anything for my children to have the right to a free and public education, which, by the way, they constantly are trying to take the ability for us to homeschool and all that stuff away to make them go to public school. But then when they go to public school, this is what they get. You don't get to learn math because you know English, so you just don't get to learn math. What? I'm about to ask what I'm not.
Yeah. And, I was on a podcast yesterday and we were talking about it. It's like these babies don't know basic math. Like they can't do basic change. So if you have something, let's say it's $2.56, right? Let's see. I'm trying to make this right. Yeah. $2.56. And you give this child $3.06, right? You should get 50 cents back. They literally stop and go, they like flip out because they don't know math. And these are children over the age of 18. They don't know basic math. They cannot do it. And we've graduated these people. Some of these people have gone to college and they cannot do basic math. Like that's like 5-year-old stuff. This is a crisis. I'm not being hyperbolic. This is an issue. And we as parents have got to stand up. I'm a grandparent now, but I'm saying I'm grateful that my grandson goes to a very good school, and it actually is in Decatur, Georgia. But what about all the other children that aren't in good schools and going through something like what this mother's going through? Why are these parents paying all these exorbitant property taxes and their kids aren't learning? Where's the money going? That's what I'm saying. School board, where's the money going? Schools, where's the money going? Superintendent, where's the money going? Because if the money is not helping the children learn, where is it going? And why are you spending money on children who cannot read and write or speak English? And why are they even here in our classrooms? They need to be deported with their parents. They shouldn't be here. No, we're not doing the bleeding heart stuff anymore. Get rid of everybody who cannot speak the language here because they don't belong here. We're not doing visas anymore. We're not doing temporary status anymore. Get rid of everybody who does not belong here. Now, for some people, they might get upset with me. You're a racist. No, that's not being racist. That's standing up for my country. Because I'm not going to sit and allow my country to be taken over by anybody. Because my ancestors fought too hard for me to be in the position I'm in. I am not going to let anybody just come over here and destroy it. You first. You will go first. Off the soil. You don't belong here.
Thank goodness President Trump is taking over now and sending people back home, deporting a lot of people that came here should not be here. But if we continue to allow people to come in this country that hate this country, we're going to lose it. And we better wake up and smell the roses. And so that's what we're trying to do. Assimilation Act, we're trying to make sure that if people come here, they come here to assimilate. If they don't, they go home. It's as simple as that. We cannot allow people to come here to change our culture, our constitution, our laws, and go by the things that they want to go by and do it the way they want to do it. They have to do it the same as all other Americans.
Right.
Thank goodness President Trump is taking.
Period. And so I guess this is what the Assimilation Act looks like. So key details of proposed 2026 Assimilation Act. It ends chain migration. Now, the chain migration happens through the H-1B visas, if anybody's unaware of that. But that's how that chain migration happens. And so if, let's just say somebody comes over here to work, they bring over their wife, right? Or their wife can bring over their mom, their dad, a cousin, another relative. But those relatives also get to bring somebody on. So that's how it becomes chain migration. And then having a merit-based system. I'm not into merit. I'm not, no, not me. Scraps, diversity visa lottery. I like that. Again, I just think the doors need to be shut. Expands good moral character requirements, which I understand that, right? But people can lie, okay? And then tightens vetting process. And that is what should have been all along, because see, we've got people over here that shouldn't be here, right? When you hear about somebody unfortunately losing their life, you find out that this person had already been deported, came back, got arrested, released several times, and then they may have harmed more than one or two people, and then they ended somebody's life. And then everybody's like, why are they even here? How did they even get back in? And when they were arrested, why weren't they deported? And why were they sent to El Salvador, by the way? I like that prison. We need to connect with the president of El Salvador and get all of these crazy lunatics out of our country. That's where I'm at. That is really where I'm at. Now I want to shift gears to all sides and get into some of these articles. So we've got the self-driving cars, right? Increasing public safety or destroying human interaction. I'm really not a fan of the self-driving cars. I've seen them. It's super creepy. I'm not getting in one. I'm tell you that right now. Check it right. Okay. If I don't see a human at the wheel, I'm not getting in. So I try not to take Uber and Lyft as much as I can, because I'm really, I don't want to deal with that. So I try to just drive places as much as I can. But yeah, self-driving cars, not a fan. Not a fan. So one of Waymo's driverless robo-taxis accidentally entered a flooded roadway, prompting the company to recall about 3,800 of its vehicles. In addition to safety concerns, driverless cars have sparked a variety of perspectives. Are driverless vehicles a solution to feminist issues, or are they a convenience that only benefits the big tech elite? I think it's a big tech elite thing. Seriously, because the everyday person doesn't care in a way that's like, I just need to go where I need to go, right? But someone like an Elon Musk or these other tech people, they're like, oh yes, robotics is so wonderful. It's like, shut up. If you want to drive a car, have one. We don't care. But we don't want people out of work either. You know, Uber and Lyft already messed up the whole taxi driver situation. You right? Flip that on its head. So now we want to just have cars that drive around with nobody in them that can at any time be taken over and manipulated. And if you get injured in the car, oh well, you took your chances getting into an autonomous vehicle. Yeah, it's really crazy. So some of the robo taxis were seen on camera driving to a flooded street and stalling in Austin, Texas, which caused other drivers on the road to have to navigate around them. The recall followed a specific incident on April 20th in which an unoccupied Waymo detected untransversible floodwater, but still proceeded at a reduced speed. The car was swept away into a creek by the floodwater. Right, because it's not human. It can't discern. Hey, this is high water. Maybe I shouldn't drive my car there. Look, maybe I shouldn't do that. But a robot doesn't have that kind of discernment. It doesn't have that type of acumen. It isn't human. Okay? There are some things robots can do, some things robots cannot. So Waymo is a feminist issue. This is weird. Okay, so slow boring, which is a left-wing bias, argued that driving is just one part of a much broader set of responsibilities that disproportionately fall on women, naming mothers, women who care for elderly parents, and single women fearing harassment on late nights as groups who all benefit from self-driving taxis. It also argued that if self-driving cars become more common, roads get safer, framing Waymos as a public safety benefit. No, it's not a benefit. It is a threat because, again, it's not human. It can't discern. So would you be okay if it just kept driving and didn't realize that there was a cliff ahead and it just kept going over the cliff? Because according to the map, hey, there was a road here, but what if the bridge went out? Are you safe then? Or are we just going to, talk about it after you're gone because the car just drove in here? That's the problem. It cannot discern. It isn't human. So destroying human interaction. The Atlantic posted, decided that despite claims that self-driving cars improve safety and reduce crashes, when companies talk about safety, it's not just because they care about people, but because they want to sell their product. Absolutely. Now, if they were like, oh, it's safer, and something happens that doesn't make somebody, it's almost like you can say it can help to keep you safe. But if you're guaranteeing somebody's safety and then they get injured, then you're up for a lawsuit. So what are you doing? I used to work in compliance. That's why I make that argument. So it's not just because they care about people who want to sell a product. And that's all they want to do is sell a product. So it went on to claim that chances are slim that the average American will benefit much financially from any of that money. Instead, Atlantic's article argued that removing taxi drivers removes crucial human interaction in the name of convenience, and that it is important to preserve spaces like taxis that allow people to interact with people of different backgrounds. Yeah, but let's talk about how some of these taxi drivers are criminals, and we're not doing proper background checks to make sure that criminals aren't on our roads. Like there's just so much that has happened that we are not taking care of in our societies. Okay, you got driverless cars, you got taxis with sometimes very unscrupulous people. I'll just say that. And both need to be handled. Like I said, I don't want to drive an autonomous car. You can keep it moving for me. When I go to a restaurant and they use robots, I don't go back. Or I try to find out, do you have robot waiters? Great, thank you. I'm never going. Because I want human interaction when I go out, because I can cook for myself. I don't have to spend my money with you. And when businesses start losing money, then they'll be, oh, okay, maybe we should do things differently. Yeah, maybe you should. Maybe you should. Because there's certain places that robots should not be. And it's okay if they are not there. Some other topics that we've got the New York NYT article alleging Israeli sexual violence sparks criticism from conservatives and Jewish writers. Wow. Are we shocked though? Are we shocked? So from the center, accused of blood libel, NYT defends column, New York Times, sorry, alleging Israel rape of Palestinian inmates. The right pressed off extraordinary claims about Israeli rape require extraordinary evidence. The Times doesn't have it. And on the left, the silence that meets the rape of Palestinians. None of it's good. None of it's good. California mayor charged for acting as Chinese agent. We're going to go over that a little bit later. Trump says Americans' financial situations not even a little bit relevant in Iran negotiations. Okay. Consumer prices rise to highest point since 2023. Yeah, because we have more people, less stuff, so they can charge more. That's where we're at. Okay, Mandani, New York City budget plan and crisis solved, or kicking the can down the road. Because, yeah, he can't get the money that he needs to consolidate within just the city of New York, asking the state, like, hey, we need some more money down here. But you're paying people with these nonsensical positions, 3-figure salaries, to do what again? Huh? Fix your budget. Eliminate some of these positions that don't need to be there so that you can actually have a decent police force. Like, do your job. It's really sad. And then Trump proposes a pause on federal gas tax. I'm okay with that. If they can do that, that would be pretty awesome. And with that, let's take a quick break. See what I can pull up here. Yeah, let's take a quick break. And after we get back, we will get into some more of this news.
Water sustains life, but what if it could do more than hydrate? What if it could deliver light directly into the body? Introducing the LifeWave X2O water technology system, the first and only water technology system that infuses water with light. Using patented light infusion technology, the result is hydration optimized at the cellular level, supporting metabolism and nutrient absorption. And through hydrogen infusion, delivering antioxidant properties that support the body's natural defenses. When hydration works at the cellular level, you feel it where it matters. You drink it, you feel it. A new era in cellular hydration, powered by light. LifeWave X2O.
Those myself, because that looks pretty cool. And if you have any questions about that LifeWave product, you can reach out to Noni, CMS, LLC, @gmail.com, and you can get your questions answered or get more information. So with that, let's get into some of these hearings that happened, I guess, a day or two ago with Fauci. So the first one we're going to look at is Rand Paul, and then the next one is going to be the whistleblower that he's actually questioning. I'm playing them in this order so we can get some good context.
That there is still resistance from the CIA to comply with the law we passed to declassify all the COVID information?
Yes.
One of the things that I think is new today that I'm hearing from your testimony is that from an early period of time, you believe and the information you're aware of is that CIA scientists from an early time after the pandemic began, 2020, 2021, were concluding that the lab leak was the most likely hypothesis?
Yes, Senator. I'd like to offer some qualifications on that as well. A lot of the issues occurred at the interagency space, at the National Intelligence Council, the individuals responsible for conducting or writing WMD analysis. So, and many of those individuals are on JDA from the CIA. But yes, very early, as early as 2020, there were agencies within the IC circulating papers that that said, hey, there's, for example, DOE circulated a paper in May of 2020 that said that all the conditions were present for a lab leak. And I could go through the timeline, but yes, my short answer is yes, periodically throughout 2020 all the way to 2024. Yes.
I think the arguments, pro and con for what is the evidence on whether this came from a lab or it came from nature are still important. So for years, we've been asking the CIA to produce the scientists, either in a classified setting or a public setting, to discuss the arguments. I don't see any reason why the arguments should be classified. One of the arguments that's made publicly is that the source looks like it came from a single source of RNA, not like 5 different types of viruses or 20 different types like you had with SARS 2003, but it came from one source. And virtually everybody argues that sort of indicates a lab and not a nature. And so those arguments are important scientific arguments to have, but we've been prevented from having them. We've been preventing from getting all of the declassified information. But what I think is of importance that's new today is that your testimony is that the CIA scientists were concluding that it was lab, but then with this, there was a 90-day study in 2021, and this study was done by NIC, led by NIC. Tell us what NIC is again.
It's the National Intelligence Council, and individuals responsible for writing various WMD and bio-related issues led that.
So when they had this study, they had CIA scientists telling them, look, the evidence, the scientific evidence looks like it came from the lab. But then they brought in Anthony Fauci. And is it your opinion that Anthony Fauci was able to overrule the scientist or get NIC to conclude somehow that there wasn't a conclusion to be had here, we're going to be neutral, contradicting what the scientists were telling them?
So there's 2 questions there, and I want to break them up into 2. One is, where were the injection points, Dr. Anthony Fauci? Where did Dr. Anthony Fauci and when did he inject himself into the IC? And the other half of that question, if I'm, and I don't want to extrapolate too much here, is, okay, what happened with why was there a change in analysis? So I'll start with if it's okay, Dr. Paul.
Sure.
Senator, I'll start with Dr. Anthony Fauci. There were 2 instances. On 3 February 2020 and 4 June 2021, Anthony Fauci had contact with the interagency. And how to sort of broadly generalize this is that contact was happily pursued within the IC. They wanted that contact. And he provided a curated list of subject matter experts, which coincidentally wrote the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. So it's not like he came in and said, you have to do X, Y, and Z. He provided recommendations. It's when you look at what has already been publicly released about Dr. Fauci, and then what you're seeing under the curtain at the IC, where you realize, okay, there is a narrative that was being generated by his contact, not just with experts here in the United States, but experts in Australia and the UK. And that's the public-facing piece. And, he had tried to sort of keep his hands clear of, I didn't have anything to do with the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. But in the meantime, he's pushing those authors and individuals that have been in his orbit into the IC as experts. And I'll jump to June 2021. We as the IC at the NIC happily pursued those recommendations. And in one email, which I'll describe to you, the person in charge of leading the 90-day study, he introduced himself to the community that on what they were supposed to be doing, and then the community said, listen, we've got these people we should be talking to, and another very senior NIC officer sent a direct email to him saying, hey, considering that Dr. Fauci is a public health expert, are you sure we should be relying on this? Shouldn't we have a separate set? And in this instance, the individual responded, no, in this case, Dr. Anthony Fauci is a subject matter expert. However, that's directly contradicting his public testimony of being a subject matter expert.
Part of the job in intelligence when you interview someone is assessing their truthfulness, their potential biases or conflicts of interest. Did anyone ever bring up that Anthony Fauci approved the research that went on in Wuhan and that it might not be in his interest for the conclusion to be that it came from a lab that he had funded, that there might be a conflict? Did anybody ever bring up that he might not be an objective witness?
That was one example of an email. No one laid it out quite that clearly. You're piecing it together. We were piecing it together from multiple emails, from multiple agencies, multiple documents. It was more subtle than that. Nobody said, this is happening. And unfortunately, I think they probably should have. It was all out there.
But your conclusion is that changing from the scientific consensus of it being from a lab to a neutral position by the CIA was significantly influenced by Anthony Fauci?
It was significantly influenced by Anthony Fauci's injecting himself into the IC. And to go to the second part of your question about what happened, particularly during the 90-day study, we have documentation that shows that as of August 12th, the CIA was considering calling this a lab leak, August 12th of 2021. And then that changed on August 17th of 2021. Right. And unfortunately, because the CIA would not provide us documentation that we asked for, we have no idea why that changed. And that's
And they weren't alone, because we know the FBI was coming to the same conclusion that it was lab leak, as well as the FBI.
Yeah, the plot thickens. Okay. So I have another video. It's the same whistleblower, but I think it's him setting up more so his testimony. But I wanted to just give you guys that interaction, that back and forth, and that setup. What in the world would Anthony Fauci be doing with the CIA? You're medical. But there was yeah.
And as you mentioned, I was on joint duty assignment at the Office of Director National Intelligence, Directors Initiatives Group, or the DIG, between March 2025 and April 2026. I was responsible for leading the DIG's investigation into COVID origins, anomalous health incidents, and unidentified anomalous phenomena. I'm here today to discuss the COVID cover-up, the national security implications associated with the DIG's investigative findings, and CIA refusal to comply with lawful oversight, as well as how we remedy these problems. Intelligence community leaders and senior analysts downplayed the possibility that the COVID pandemic originated as a result of a lab incident. Motives are difficult to define given the scope of the DIG's review. Intentional or not, the IC's actions resulted in a cover-up, wasted resources, and a failure to properly inform policymakers. Public health policy would have been very different had the American public been made aware that a virus from a lab in China was going to serve as the foundation for an emergency use authorization mRNA products being mandated by the former administration. Dr. Fauci's role in the cover-up was intentional. Dr. Fauci influenced the analytical process and findings by leveraging his position to ensure the IC consulted with a conflicted list of curated subject matter experts, public health officials, and scientists. This included some of the authors of the paper, The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, and other public health experts who have been in his orbit for the last 20-plus years. Some of the scientists were part of the Biological Sciences Experts Group, or the BSEG, an office of Director National Intelligence Advisory Body, whose members often receive considerable funding from NIAID and public health agencies. The BSEG scientists influence national laboratory WMD research, policy decisions, finished analysis, and other intelligence matters, creating misaligned incentives and conflicts of interest, as well as counterintelligence issues. Since 2006, the BSEG consulted part-time on biodefense issues for the IC, while conducting government-funded research and holding academia positions, as well as maintaining roles in public health institutions and serving as members in the National Academy of Science. They receive funding from NIAID and other agencies for vaccine research, USAID's PREDICT project, the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program, and even worked with Chinese scientists on coronavirus and other pathogen studies pursuing vaccines. There was no oversight monitoring how this web of relationships influenced research, policy, and public health in any holistic way for over 20 years. In fact, several of the BSEG scientists helped Dr. Fauci rewrite definitions of gain of function in 2015 to lift a funding pause on dangerous research. Still others participated in planning Event 201 in 2019. This was a coronavirus pandemic tabletop exercise, curiously similar to the events that played out during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it was attended by Dr. Fauci and individuals with IC ties like former DNI Avril Haines. The CIA and DNI analytic managers responsible for examining the origin of COVID made decisions inconsistent with the conclusions of subject matter experts and analytical tradecraft, consistently favoring the theory of zoonosis or natural origin. Following the CIA's COVID relook that culminated in 2023, the CIA retaliated against analysts supporting the lab leak hypothesis. CIA analysts were not bribed. The analysts that supported the 2023 lab leak conclusion took every administrative measure available to them to address their deep concerns regarding the analytic integrity of their finished intelligence. CIA managers retaliated against them for their refusal to agree with management's middle-of-the-night anonymous rewrite of the analysis, which changed the assessment to a non-call judgment. Dr. Anthony Fauci's influence over the IC's COVID origin analysis and the witting and unwitting role some BSEG scientists and IC personnel played in the cover-up exposed why this issue is of deep concern. Failure to address the United States government's inability to differentiate between public health and biodefense and the oversight-resistant ecosystem of life science actors has been fertile ground for increasingly dangerous continental United States gain-of-function research, as well as similar research conducted in U.S. government-supported labs abroad. Post-9/11 changes in public health and biodefense roles and responsibilities have blurred the lines between scientists, the military, the intelligence community. It has resulted in a deliberately opaque and excessively redundant biodefense research policy and financial infrastructure, seemingly intended to escalate bureaucratic bloat. This is a national security crisis caused by the inability to provide real oversight. The systematic failures associated with muddled boundaries between biodefense and public health and an overly complex infrastructure have been exacerbated by documented efforts to circumvent oversight. CIA did not comply with lawful oversight during the Diggs investigation. The behavior significantly impacted Director Gabbard's implementation of several EOs issued during this administration and tasked to the DIG. The CIA refused to provide information necessary to understand why analytical standards at the CIA were violated. The CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage of DIG personnel, their investigations, and contact with whistleblowers. These were Americans being spied upon illegally while executing duties directed by the President and under the authority of the Director of National Intelligence. One CIA contractor assisting with the Diggs investigation into the events that transpired between 2022 and 2023 was fired by the CIA one day after meeting with the DIG. When the DIG ceased operations, the CIA also took back 40 boxes of JFK files and MK Ultra files being processed for declassification by DNI Gabbard. The legislative and executive branches will continue to be misinformed if this type of behavior is not addressed. The partial solution to dangerous gain of function has already been laid out in Executive Order 14292, improving the safety and security of biological research. We need a comprehensive review of government-funded life science research and a move back to pre-9/11 definitions of gain of function and WMD research, particularly in the IC and DHS. More broadly, we need effective oversight. We must hold agencies responsible for failure to comply with Executive Order 14292, and oversight must have teeth. You must be willing to pull the purse strings, and if necessary, convene another church committee. The results of our investigation would have been impossible without whistleblowers willing to come forward. They are indispensable agents for reform. Despite statutory law, agency regulation, and training requirements, whistleblowers are almost never protected. Whistleblower protections always seem to protect the agency. Every time the CIA investigates itself, they coincidentally find no wrongdoing. When they do identify issues, they hold the system responsible. That last statement is a verbatim response from a Europe and Eurasia Mission Center lawyer when the CIA Office of Inspector General did identify shortcomings so serious, oversight bodies were holding meetings about it 3 years after the events transpired. It was in response to the question, was anyone held accountable? Apparently, the system is good enough. The only way we solve this issue is with real accountability for failure to comply with executive and legislative branch oversight and an escape valve where whistleblowers can continue to contribute to mission free from retaliation. All IG elements need to be removed from the agencies and fall under a separate entity controlled by the IC Inspector General. The personnel in IG elements should be 1811 certified with regular DOJ and legislative oversight reporting responsibilities.
Yeah, that is intense. The CIA is just trash. Like, really? Really? So this is where we're at. So Congress, what you gonna do? But does the CIA, I think the CIA actually falls under the executive branch. But then they act as if they are their own entity of government, just separate from everybody. Like, we just do what we want to do. Shut that down. Okay? You can't just do what you want to do with our tax dollars, misinforming us and just the nonsense that goes on in Washington. But yeah, y'all need to handle the CIA. But I'm grateful that he was able to come forward and shed a little light and make, the tinfoil hat people, you're not crazy. These things are happening. These things are happening. So it's good validation. Now I want to move on to another video, Melanie King, and she's talking a little bit about what's happening with the mayor in Arcadia and just the nonsense. And good morning to you, Nikki's Boo 8587. Hello and good morning.
Case that's shaken Arcadia City Hall, and the mayor still refuses to comment. Mayor Eileen Wang's former fiance and campaign manager has been sentenced to prison. Yao Ning's son, aka Mike's son, was caught spying for China. Wang is distancing herself from the case, but now we're hearing from a woman who says she was approached by the spy.
Okay, guys, I'm going to need you to pay close attention to this one, because the timing of what I'm about to tell you, well, I don't think it's an accident. Last night, if you're not aware, yes, last night, the statute of limitations expired on Dr. Fauci's line to Congress. All about that gain of function research, about the NIH money flowing into the Wuhan lab. And not one single charge. He just gets to walk away scot-free and just right off into the sunset. Now, when that happens, guess what happened on the very same day? Well, we get this story out of Arcadia, California, about this Chinese spy sitting on the city council and pleading guilty to working for the CCP. And now everybody's supposed to be outraged about that and forget everything else that is going on. Now, I'm not saying that this story isn't real. It absolutely is, as far as we know. And I'm going to break it all down because I do think it matters, but I need you to hold two things in your head at the same time, okay? Because what they're counting on is you not being able to do that. They're counting on you being distracted. So here's what we're dealing with. A council member who sometimes acts as the mayor, a woman who has embedded herself inside the local government in Los Angeles. Well, she's just pleaded guilty to being a Chinese operative. Yes, working for a foreign government inside American politics. But here's the thing. This didn't just come out of nowhere, right? Right? So she has this ex-fiance who is also her campaign manager, and he's already been convicted of being a Chinese spy. That's already signed, sealed, and delivered. So the people in her inner circle were getting convicted for working for the CCP, and somehow she just kept going about her business. Nobody investigated. Nobody said a word up until yesterday. And I want you to ask yourself, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or you don't care about politics, I think this is something that should disturb you. How many more are there? Because if this is happening in one city council in California, do you really think this isn't happening in Washington? Do you really think that it doesn't go any deeper than this? Well, let me tell you what I think. I think there are a whole lot more, and I mean a lot more. And because I think this is what happens when you have a government that protects its own, that looks the other way, that lets people like Dr. Fauci lie under oath to Congress and face zero consequences. The whole system is rotten from top to bottom.
A developing story now. We are learning more about a spy case that's shaken Arcadia City Hall. Mayor Eileen Wang's former fiance and campaign manager was just sentenced to prison after he was caught spying for China.
Tonight, new information on this story. We're hearing from a woman who says the spy tried to recruit her.
And CBS LA political reporter Tom Wade is live in Arcadia now with that woman.
And see, this is going to set up the argument to say nobody foreign can be in our politics. And so for all of you that are in the House and the Senate and at these local and city and county levels, and you're coming from other countries and you're naturalized, you're not going to get into Congress. you're not going to be sitting in these seats anymore because of this stuff. Because you are being influenced and used by foreign actors. So this is going to have a trickle down effect. I'm just telling you. I'm just saying.
It's revelations. Tom?
Yeah, once again, very intriguing, Rudabeh and Pat. And this case in many ways feels like it should be closed, right? The spy was sentenced last week, but one citizen journalist here in Arcadia says that is not the case. She says there are still many open questions.
We have a car.
Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wang on Tuesday night refusing to answer our questions about a now convicted Chinese government spy, Yao Ning's son, also known as Mike's son, who Mayor Wang once referred to as her fiance, boyfriend, and campaign manager.
I just think it's important for people to understand just your reaction to this sentence.
I don't have the comments right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Son was sentenced last week to 4 years in prison for his work as a spy. According to court documents, his mission was to groom a Southern California politician, help them rise in the ranks, and then promote pro-Chinese Communist Party interests in the U.S.
So do you see what I'm saying? She was cozying up to the mayor, to all the local power structures and politicians. And now knowing what we know today, I think it's obvious. This is textbook how politics work today. This is textbook CCP plays right here. But this is what gets me. The second her associate / fiance was convicted of spying for China, well, she should have been investigated immediately. But no, of course not. Because that's not how the system works. This is the same corrupt system that let Dr. Fauci just walk free. The man who sat in front of Congress and straight up lied, proven that he lied about the gain of function, about what the NIH was funding in Wuhan, about the origins of the COVID pandemic that killed millions of people and pretty much destroyed the global economy. Now, the statute of limitations on those charges, well, guess what? They expired last night. He's never going to get charged. He will never see the inside of a courtroom. And they somehow want you focused on a city council member in Arcadia.
Arcadia resident and citizen journalist Sonia Martin met Son at a luncheon before it was known he was a spy for the Chinese government. Martin says Wang asked her to help her make good on some campaign promises. Martin declined.
I thought it was a ladies' lunch, and I showed up and this, guy was there, and I was like, who's this? I thought this was going to be a ladies' lunch.
Martin says Son was quietly observing the lunch.
Just quietly kind of serving. He would get up and serve, and make sure you eat this.
You know why he was there?
No, I didn't. And she did introduce me to him at the beginning as her fiance.
After news broke that Son was charged with being a Chinese government spy, Martin tracked the case closely, even going to Son's sentencing last week. She took this photo of Son in shackles as he was led out of the courtroom.
The only thing he said to the judge was, I wrote you a letter.
Mayor Wang is not accused of any wrongdoing. As is standard, the U.S. Attorney's Office would not confirm or deny whether she is under investigation.
Next item, number 6.
For now, it appears it's business as usual in Arcadia. No mention Tuesday night of Son or his sentence. Martin says she doesn't think residents are getting the full story.
I'm just sick of it. I'm so just fed up.
And tonight we reached out to every member of the city council in Arcadia, including the mayor. None of them responded to us.
So now we got to fast forward to today. She's pleaded guilty to promoting Chinese propaganda. She's admitted it. And I want you to let that sink in for a second, because a sitting elected official was promoting propaganda for a foreign government inside your government. And I want you to keep something else in mind while you watch this, right? Right now, we are potentially in the early stages of another pandemic. The hantavirus situation that I've been covering every single day, and it keeps growing crazier by the minute. Well, that's not going to go away. The same thing with the cost of everything going through the roof. Gas prices, groceries, housing. People are struggling just to get through the month. And we have this war going on that is causing a global energy crisis. And every single person at the top, well, they just keep getting richer while you and I try to figure out how to stretch our paychecks. And this is what they give us: a guilty plea from a local politician, not Dr. Fauci, but just this woman, not the rest of all the corrupt politicians, but just her.
Again, with breaking news, the mayor of Arcadia has agreed to plead guilty to being a foreign agent spreading Chinese propaganda.
And for more on the charge against Eileen Wang, we're joined now by Kevin Ozebek.
Well, David and Giovanna, federal investigators say instead of acting in the best interest of the people who elected her, Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wang acted in the interest of the Chinese Communist Party. Mayor Wang, seen here in campaign videos she posted online, has accepted a plea deal that could see her spend up to 10 years behind bars.
Wow.
Federal prosecutors say the mayor and the then fiancé were posting Chinese Communist Party propaganda on a website called U.S. News Center. According to court documents unsealed today, Mayor Wang received and executed directives from PRC government officials to post pro-PRC content on this website, and sometimes sought approval from PRC government officials to circulate other pro-PRC content.
The website that we're talking about looked like a standard news website that got a lot of traffic in the community. If you signed on, it looked kind of like the CNN website, does, with lots of different just regular news updates. And then, peppered in with the regular news were these items of propaganda.
And we just checked, Arcadia City website has now been updated, and it says Wang has resigned from Arcadia City Council effective today. A new mayor will be selected at the next regular council meeting. Now, you may remember earlier this year, Mayor Wang's former fiance and campaign manager was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison. Yaoning Mike's son pled guilty to one count of acting as a foreign agent to a foreign government.
Okay, and now it gets worse, because this woman, this Chinese operative, well, she was given an award, yes, by a sitting member of Congress while she was on the city council. Congressional Woman of the Year. I'm going to read to you her quote, because I really need you to hear this. Hear what she said, right? She said, "It's a tremendous honor to represent the Arcadia community. I'm deeply passionate about our community and committed to making it be the best it can be. Seeing women unite with a purpose to prioritize our community was inspiring. Together, we work for a brighter, more inclusive future for all." Brighter and more inclusive. Really? Does that include the Chinese Communist Party? Because while she's making this speech, she was working for them the whole time. So my question is, and I think it's a serious question, was her little speech approved by the CCP? Did Beijing give this award ceremony the green light? And I'm not being sarcastic, guys. I'm genuinely asking. Because how does someone get that deep into American politics, get handed a congressional award while simultaneously working as a foreign agent? How does that happen unless there's a entire network around her that either, didn't know or they didn't care, which is impossible because of the ex-fiance. And this is not a one-off. We've seen this playbook before. We've seen it in New York. We've seen it in other cities. It's a pattern, part of the same corrupt pattern. And this is all while Dr. Fauci, who helped fund the research that unleashed COVID on the entire world, gets to retire comfortably, writing books, doing interviews, completely untouchable. But they throw this, this little bone to us while his charges expired last night, distracting us from more important people that need to be prosecuted like him. But now that's completely impossible.
A former top aide in New York is accused of using her position to live a life of luxury and benefit Chinese interests. Federal prosecutors say Linda's son acted as an undeclared spy for China, persuading 2 New York governors to take actions favorable to China in exchange for millions of dollars in side deals. Prosecutors allege she and her husband used the money to fund a lavish lifestyle.
I want you guys just to see some of the posts about Dr. Fauci. This was all put out here yesterday, and no one was paying attention because this was making, major headlines, as well as other things. But look, so this was coming out and people were not paying attention. It says the statute of limitations for indicting Dr. Fauci for allegedly lying under oath will expire today with no arrest expected. And then people were trying, some Congress people like Rand Paul were trying to last minute throw something out there and get people woken up. But why wasn't anything done before? Why did they wait to the last minute? This is a Republican Congress. You would think that this will be a top priority, but no, 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 no. Let's just, this random councilwoman who boyfriend with or fiance was already convicted of being a Chinese spy. So this, they had to have known this. This is old news, right? They knew all about what she was up to connected to him. And she certainly isn't the only one, right? How did she even get the job? What's her whole history? How did she become part of this? You're telling me they had no idea? Congress had no idea? No one. But just yesterday, when this is going on, that happens. But now, look, the DOJ is throwing us another bone that hopefully another elite will actually be held accountable. So the DOJ is now weighing new criminal case against Dr. Fauci, despite Biden's auto pen pardon and statute of limitations. So they're going to, I guess they want to undo all of Biden's auto pen stuff, which I think is going to be impossible. They're going to be fought tooth and nail in court. And then there's also the statute of limitations issue. But yet they want to put this out here to throw us a bone, to make it look like something's going to really happen, that there's some real movement, that finally one of these corrupt officials, one of these elite will be held accountable. But we know they're not. And that's what is happening in these last days. More and more, we're going to see truth revealed. More and more, we're going to see distractions. More and more, they're going to keep throwing things at the wall, hoping that we are not paying attention to those things that are most important, the things that were promised, the things that a lot of people voted for, whether left or right. I don't think anybody has any love for Dr. Fauci. And he helped, in my opinion, cause a global pandemic. And we can go layers deep in all the stuff he's done, but we'll keep it surface level, right? We'll keep it PG for this video because I don't want YouTube coming after me. But if you know, you know. And now we're possibly on the edge of another pandemic that the elites have been talking about all along. She was a nobody. She was a sacrificial lamb. They don't care about her. The people that we actually care about, the people that have really harmed us, well, they're like Dr. Fauci. Look, he gets to just play with another virus and also play with our lives. But don't worry, guys. Everything is fine.
It's crazy. She's not wrong. But the question is, are we, the people of this country, are we going to allow this? Because we don't have to allow this. They work for us. We do not work for them. It's time to call the congressman. It's time to call the people in the House, Senate, right? Those are your congressmen of your state, and demand that they hold Anthony Fauci, the NIH, and all of the other little alphabet agencies, and especially the CIA, accountable for what the whistleblowers have brought forward. And if they don't, that's fine. They can be voted out of office. See, they don't get to just go back. That's the thing. That's the power that we have in this country with our votes. So do not get discouraged. Do not feel deflated. Feel empowered, because now you know how criminally they are acting. And we, the people, we will not stand for it, nor tolerate it. So thank you so much for joining me here for our Mighty Men Thursday. Sorry we didn't have anybody come on for open mic, but tomorrow it will be our Prayer with Friday. So we'll have some good content then. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.